What's going on, LinkedIn? Looks like we're all here and we are live on Bottoms Up Perspective. And this is episode 11. So we're doing employees versus employers. So that's the topic today. And we have a special guest, Chris Simon, with us today. He's been with the Bottoms Up group. And so we all been conversing about this topic as well. And it's exciting to have him here today. And it looks like people are starting to just hop on. So if you guys have a chance, feel free, Chris, Tim, Aldric, go ahead and share it to your audience. And yeah, let's give it a few minutes here. And yeah.
Let's get it on.
Exciting stuff. So I think let's start with the first question, right? So let's talk about you as an employee, right? Between us four here, I want to hear your perspective as an employee. And I know the audience out there, you all been either an employee or employer. In some part in our life, we've all been an employee, right? So I'll let one of you guys start. Who wants to volunteer?
Shall we get our guests to do a little self-introduction first?
Oh, man, I lost
segue
on the
into
audio.
that topic. I think it'll be a very interesting one. Hey, Chris.
Chris,
let's start with you.
Why don't you introduce yourself and we'll start with you?
Absolutely. Well, thanks for letting me join today. This has been great to get to know you guys for the past couple of weeks. So who am I? Have you ever worked for a boss that doesn't know how to motivate you or inspire you well? Or work with a team that just doesn't jive and it seems like you guys are at each other more than you're supporting each other? Or you're in a culture where the company says it's one way, but in reality, it's completely different? Those are the stuff that I do as an executive coach, an organizational change consultant. I help with the people aspect of business. A lot of the companies I've talked with focus 99% of their time on products, on strategies and all this, and they neglect to recognize the people part. Are you building them up? Are you giving them opportunities for growth? Are you teaching them their next job so they can take it sometime soon? And that's where I live. And so I love the people side of things. And that's the joy I get to do every day.
That's awesome. So you're perfect fit for this topic.
I'm not sure about that, but I'll share what little I've learned.
It sounds like we started off with the employer, and after Chris's introduction, we now have an employee, employer, and a consultant, and now it's a triangulation, right?
Absolutely. Well, this
that works. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
No, Aldric, I love your introduction.
My introduction is really simple. I think we are at episode 11 of the show already. So I'm basically doing my own thing, but in my previous life, maybe for the past 100 years, I've been an employee of sorts. I've been a freelancer of sorts. So I guess that also qualifies me as some form of an employer, right? Naturally, I think the things that we think about as an employer and as an employee is going to be wildly different, right? Employers always think about the business first, or the venture first, or no matter how small that revenue stream is going to be, it's always that first, right? And it's always the competitive nature is important, like go, we need to do this, eat it, live it, breathe it, sleep it. And I think that's very important. Otherwise, it's very difficult for the business to succeed. So for every employer of sorts, if we really think about it, the big ones. So Chris, you consult Fortune 50, right? So let's just expand the pool slightly from Fortune 50 to Fortune 500 or 5,000. Before a company gets to that scale, before the number one guy became a C-suite of sorts or an employer of sorts, he was an entrepreneur, right? Mm-hmm. So there are certain things that he would have brought along with him as he grew and evolved, right? And those things don't go away. They don't. Even when I look at the freelancing activities that I do or the businesses that I have stakes in, it's the same mentality, right? The business comes first, survival comes first, but that doesn't mean that it has to be at the expense of the people working with you, not for you. I'm against that. I'm against that. Not for you, but with you, right? So the way I think about it is employers or entrepreneurs or freelancers with a team, a virtual team or an outsourced team, we are all responsible for the people with us and around us. Only when we do that, not only we get to take care of our business and our ventures, when we take care of the people with us, they take care of our customers, right? So when Kevin constructed this topic on employee versus employers, I knew that I'm going to be a devil's advocate again this week somehow or rather. I don't know why. I don't know why. This is my little pet peeve and lament. It's like ever since episode 5, probably 7 episodes ago, I'm just like the one that's destroying and demolishing every single damn thing. But I think sometimes we just have to have that little perspective that, hey, it doesn't always have to be this. We can be like this in parallel, but we can help each other, right? So that's what I believe. Now, that's on one part of the spectrum. On the other part of the spectrum, I think I've been an employee before, multiple times in this lifetime, probably in my past 100 years or so, and I think the point that separates whether the employee believes in the business or not sometimes has to do with where you sit in the value chain. I think that's very important to distinguish, right? The people that can align most to the business, they are the revenue generating centers. I'm not saying this as a one stick hit all kind of statement. I'm saying this based on my observation, right? But the people that's on a fixed payroll, on a cost center, it's more of, hey, that's my fixed remuneration and I need to manage your workload, I need to manage your expectations. But salespeople don't think like that, don't you? Salespeople are like, no, don't give me such a low target, I want a higher target. Just tell me what I have to hit in order for my commission to move from 5% to 7%. What's that? Mm-hmm. Tell me that. And then get out of my way. Literally, get out of my way. I'm going. Leave me alone. Right? Leave me alone. And then the thing is, you have to, and don't call them. Because they should be on call with the client, with the prospect, with their leads. Right? So when we talk about, like you rightfully mentioned, Chris, when we talk about motivation, but before that, where are we? Where are we? If you have to motivate a sales team, something is wrong. in my opinion, something is wrong, right? If you have to motivate a sales team, once in a while you need to do a prep talk or whatsoever just to get them psyched up again, right? But if you have to motivate them every morning, something is really, very wrong. Or if your sales team is sitting at their desk every morning, I think something is very wrong too. So I think it's a matter of the environment, it's a matter of where we are within the value chain, right? My general opinion, just as an open introduction to this topic, right? So of course we can explore whether I'm a good employee or not. I guess it's gonna be a mixed bag. If you ask all my ex bosses or supervisors and things like that, I tend to do what I believe. So get out of my way, like get out of my way. That's what I think.
What about you, Tim? Like to hear from you, your thoughts on just being an employee.
So being an employee for me was always a matter of the culture. Always a matter of the culture. The culture kind of dictated what kind
of employee. It's just me.
I
can't hear you, Tim, but I'm going to exit and come back. Okay?
Okay, got it. But yeah, the culture kind of always dictated what kind of employee I was, right? If it was a good culture and there was a team culture, it was much easier to be an employee and be a good employee and be a team player because that culture was there. In the places where there's, I'm just going to say shit culture, and everybody's stabbing each other in the back, it's hard to show up for work, especially in a sales environment. It's hard to show up for work and feel like, okay, I want to be a team player, because unfortunately you feel like people are out to get you. So for me, the employee situation always had to do with the culture and environment. I try to be a good employee no matter where I was, but at a certain point you kind of look at it, and after a while if people are constantly trying to backstab you, you're like, all right, this is not working. So when I was an employee, I usually, like I said, I try to be a good employee. I always had my own opinion. So sometimes I didn't jive with management if I thought they were dead wrong on something. Because you guys know already, I'm not the type of person to hold back and be like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to do what you say. It doesn't work that way. Part of the reason why I eventually became my own employer. But yeah, like I said, a lot of it had to do with culture. If the culture was bad, it was hard to stick in there and be a team player. If the culture was good, it was very easy to be a team player and be a good employee and show up for work every day and have fun. That's always been my experience with being an employee.
I agree. I'm the same way. So even for myself, I'm an employer, obviously now, but I have my share of working different corporate jobs and even random jobs, right? And it really depends on leadership. It's always some top down, right? You can be, as an employee, you can be in your A game as long as you have good management, good culture, someone that's a true leader, right? But which is rare, right? Because there's a lot more bosses than there are leaders. And some of them just ended up in a position of leadership, right? And they don't even know how they got there. And they're not good people, they don't have good people skill. So, and there's a very clear definition between a boss and a leader. Not all bosses are good leaders. So I think we got to be real clear about that too, right? So I do agree with Aldric. It depends, where you sit in the value chain, and your experience is going to be different. So I think when it comes to overall, I think when I was an employee, I would say I was always a real hard worker. I try to put my 100% in, but then I started learning I wasn't always valued. It just depends on the leadership. And sometimes I give my all, work after hours, but at the end of the day, no one cares, and, and you invest a lot of your life doing that, and then eventually I became an employer, and I think there's that pivoting moment, right, for all of us. And I'm sure, Chris, in your consulting, you probably work with a lot of C-suite executives that tells you when that pivoting point was, right? How they got there, what made them decide to become an employer versus an employee. And so I think it's a great topic. I'm excited about tonight. I mean, when it comes to being a good employee, it really depends, right? It depends on perspective, right? One boss might think you're horrible and you're just a dummy for spending all those hours, Kevin, and working your butt off, What an idiot, I can pay him cheap and he's going to just work really hard. Then another boss might think, man, he's the best worker ever. He's giving my time back. So it really depends on perspective. And so when it comes to being an employee, right, what do you feel is what makes you guys the most stressful when you just think back to when you were a corporate person and you're working for someone? What caused the most stress? What type of leadership, what type of culture really made the workplace horrible for you?
Yeah.
I'll
go ahead, Chris.
I'll hop in because I love something that Aldric said, and it ties beautifully into this. So many people see employer as opposition, as butting up against each other. One wins and one loses. And I think the great leaders and the great organizations recognize it has to be a symbiotic relationship.
That's really good.
An employee or an employer who has a company who doesn't have employees to do the work well doesn't have a company. And an employee who has a lot of hard skills and abilities but don't have a place to utilize them doesn't have a place to work. And I think both sides can get overly focused and in all reality overly selfish to just look at their own side. And so for this question of what makes a good employee, and the next one of what makes it difficult, I think a lot of that is not being appreciated. not having clear communication, not having clear expectations. And I think a lot of that goes back to a singular epidemic we're seeing in corporate America now is absence of leadership. In this idea of, okay, here's your job, go do it, and I'll check in on you in a month. And that's not leadership. That's not leading. That's not even managing, to where they said, and it's this fine line, because I think people fall on the other side of the spectrum too, where I hired you because you have knowledge, you have skills, and you have experience, and I want you to use those. But I'm going to micromanage you and tell you how to do everything. That doesn't work, because that's not respectful to the employee and all they've learned. But at the same time, it's not very respectful either to say, do this task and you are completely at your own. I was talking with my mentor today who was at Fortune 1 for a long time, and talked about for his first 3 years, he had a mentor that just helped teach him about the Walmart culture, to learn what's acceptable, what's not. How do you get things done? What are the cultural mores and norms of the company? And without leadership or without peers teaching you this stuff, I think you miss out on so much. And when that is absent from a top-down perspective, it limits the value an employee can actually provide. And for me, those are the times I'm most frustrated, when they say, do this job with limited direction, limited supervision, limited guidance, and this idea of just figure it out.
That's really good.
Yeah, I'll jump in as far as what's stressful. For me, what I've always found to be stressful is the lack of an open-minded relationship between employer, be it boss or whatever, an employee, right? And what that means is, if in a good culture, what I've always found is, if an employee has a good suggestion, and when I was a boss or a leader or whatever you want to say, I always listened to the people who had solid ideas, because I'm like, okay, that can help us. So what I've always found to be the most stressful is if somebody is just dead set in, like, I'm the boss and what I say goes, and there's no other way except my way. That's always been the most stressful thing for me, because I've always appreciated somebody who's able to think outside the box and who can give good ideas. And if that person can give good ideas, fantastic. That helps. And that's the person, if I'm in a leadership position and a promotion opportunity comes up, that's the person who I want to promote. So when it comes to, like, what's stressful, what was always stressful for me as an employee, if I wasn't running the entire show, if I had a boss who just wouldn't listen to reason and just wanted to do it their way, and they didn't care that there's better ways out there, and especially if you've experienced better ways, and you know for sure that the way you're doing it is so cumbersome and so tedious and makes the job so much more difficult and slows the whole process down, and you try to explain that and they don't want to listen, that was always the most stressful thing for me, because I'm like, all right, dude, like, this is just taking up way too much time for us to do our job. It's not that difficult. And that was always the most stressful thing for me.
If I may piggyback on that, because I think Tim makes a great point here, is this idea of what a friend of mine coined fellowship. Is if we want to be an employee and follow someone, we got to trust them. We got to believe they have the best interest at heart. We got to believe that they're competent. And the only way we can do that is to communicate with us, is to share their ideas, share their why. The whole Simon Sinek, share the why. I mean, great leadership's been doing that for decades.
Yep.
And I think partially us millennial generation, which I fall into, we like to always know why and every single rationale. And I think sometimes that hurts us as an employee. Is we need to give a level of trust to start with, but then also we have to give opportunities for our leadership to continue to build that trust when they say, hey, can you trust me? And then I need to swallow my pride and my entrepreneur spirit and say, you know what? Yes, because you've proven yourself to, I will. I don't have the whole picture. I just see a slice, so I'm probably missing something. And I'm going to trust that you see the whole picture and have the best idea in mind. But that can't happen without that trust that I think a lot of people are just skipping in the process.
And I want to hop in here, because when it comes to trust, right, we got to remember as employers, trust is earned. Mm-hmm. You know, it just doesn't happen. And I think a lot of times employers forget that. We feel like, hey, I'm paying you a salary, therefore you owe this to me, and this is what you need to do. We don't put in the work to earn our employees' trust. It's just like any relationship. You don't just hire someone. They don't know you from Adam besides your job description that you posted. And you can expect all of a sudden they're going to just give their all to you and follow your leadership when they don't know you. You know, they don't know the organization. They don't know the company. And trust takes time. And while we're on LinkedIn, it's the same thing. When I connect with someone and make a connection, you don't know me from Adam. And I don't expect all of a sudden you're just going to love Kevin Kwok. You're just going to engage with all my content. You're going to just start these lovely conversations and decide to just pay me for my service. All right. If you believe in that, that's a unicorn out there. Okay. It's not going to happen. And if someone's telling you that I can sell you this LinkedIn tool that can help you create these, 100% right off the bat, close the deal, they're lying. Okay. Trust is always earned in every relationship. Employee, employer. I can't trust an employee until I get to know my employee by their actions, So when you were talking about trust, Tim, I really love that because it's definitely, it takes time.
Yeah. Yep. And just to, piggyback off what you guys are saying, the big thing is, and I have no problem if the process isn't broken, right? I'm not trying to fix something that's not broken. If I could show up for work every day and, because I've been in sales all this time. So if I can come in and there's people there and we can sell, okay, the process is not broken, right? If we can show up for work and sell something, cool. But if we show up for work and guys are sitting around for half the day and there's no productivity happening and everybody's acting like it's cool, it's like, no, this is broken. We need to fix this. So that's where the trust gets lost. If somebody's just kind of like, look, it's been this way forever, just deal with it. That's where I'm like, no, it's not. It doesn't have to be this way. So no, I'm sorry, that doesn't jive with my brain because I've seen it and it's not. There is better ways of doing it. Let's do it better so we can all make more money. And that's where I've always had stress.
That's good. Now you,
Very
Aldric.
Interesting one. Okay. I think the biggest stress as an employee, but forget about that title or that label, right? The biggest stress as an individual in an organization is that it's others before you. It's the same as the military. It's others before you, and therefore, in that language of the corporate life, it is your boss's KPIs before yours. Right. So if you're the kind where you're very individualistic, if you're the kind that's very expressive, you're the kind that you want to do your own thing, you have to hold back a little. Do what's necessary for the team and the supervisor first, and then be very, very good at it. Then you can give your suggestions to say, okay, we can do a little side project or a little side gig that can help this and that, this and that, this and that, right? Tim mentioned earning trust. It goes both ways. Employees have to earn the trust, or team leaders got to earn the trust, right? The same for team members, the same for individuals. You have to earn your trust. And the easiest way to earn our trust is through this corporate currency. It's called results. It's the same thing, right? If you can get the results and then some, why wouldn't your team leader listen to you? Right? But first, I think the way to think about that from that perspective, don't be too eager at first, because everyone else has got their KPIs and something to attend to, right? But if you have done that, if you have established yourself to be someone who delivers, people will listen to you. It's the same thing for content strategy. It's the same thing for digital marketing. It's the same thing for social media, right? You got to earn it. No one is going to give it to you. Remember those days where we really have to prepare for like your interview process and things like that? We literally bootstrap every single question in the standard playbook. Oh, tell me about yourself. I'm like, shit. Then you have to prepare for it, right? You got to earn it, isn't it? Tell me about yourself. And you're like, oh no, I can't even talk about myself for 3 minutes. Okay? Or like, where do you see yourself in 3 years and 5 years? we prepare for it, right? So in that circumstance where we're talking about corporate life, we have to understand that that's the environment where first prove it, and then some, and then we express ourselves, right? You don't build, how should I say, you don't build a command and control within yourself. At that level where you are, it's about influence, right? Which is what Chris mentioned in his post yesterday. I totally love it, by the way. I totally love it. Leadership has nothing to do where you sit in that pyramid. Nothing, right? The best example, who's the one who always get lunch dates with their colleagues? That's a leader, not a boss.
Yeah.
If no one wants to eat with the boss, if no one wants to eat with the team lead, right? You have management skills, but you don't have the ability to influence. Because people don't want to listen to you. It's very simple. The best definition I've heard about leadership, which is slightly dark, but I think it works, is that leadership is about me getting you to do things you don't like, which I want at the time where I want, and not at the time that you want. That's leadership. That's leadership. And that definition comes from military. You want people to die for you? No way, man. But I can die with you if you are willing to go first. If you are just sitting behind and pushing the button, just tell me, you go. I'll be turning around, okay, what about you? Like, literally, like, what about you?
Yeah.
I'm going to think about it.
I agree with you.
I'm going to think about it. So I think what we have to earn, right? It's like Kevin and Tim, they just keep doing their contents, right? They allow the contents to build the rapport and the trust for them, even though people don't know them. It's the same in the corporate environment. Let your results earn the trust for you. Just forget about what other people are saying. Do it first, earn it, and then some, and then express yourself. I think that's the journey. And I think that's a very important understanding, because now that we are bootstrapping this, and we say that that's the way in which employees can actually thrive in this environment, the next logical question would be, is this for you? As with every game, it's a game of patience, right? But every game is different. So in this game, are you the kind where you can tell yourself, okay, others first, results first, I don't think about myself. For a while, right? Those who leave very early on, those who leave their jobs very early on and things like that, it's not about capability. It's not about competence. It's about patience.
Yep.
Patience.
Yeah.
I did not look at any survey statistics or results and things like that, but I guess the number one reason that people leave office always is that it's either the boss problem, a culture problem, but you bootstrap everything, right? 10 reasons. Actually, it's just one reason, and that's people. And what is it about people, right? It's always about people don't trust me. But hey, you need to get people to trust you. So it's that kind of a conversation. And I think that's very, very important, right? Now, the reason I'm taking a slower way of explaining my thought processes is because I know that Susan and University of Bistro is now already following our contents, and we are actually providing them live lessons on real life entrepreneurship and the struggles that we face. So I think this is a very relevant question for Susan, for University of Bistro. Really, just think about it, right? When you are about to enter the workforce, being an employee is not just one avenue, there are many. And each avenue has its own struggles. Employee, ask yourself this: patience. Put yourself behind when you leave the house, when you get to the environment. It's about delivering. Otherwise, there's always other routes. You can try freelancing. If you are doing freelancing, you better be able to express yourself and not allow the clients to express everything before you, because you might win the deal and you're going to suffer. Like, oh gosh, I can't do this, or I can't do this, or I can't do this. Now, what are you going to say? So I'm just going to say this, like, it's different. The playbook is different. but recognize it. And that's important. That's my point, right? Whether
That's
you
really
are a good one or a bad one, right? Either let time tell or let the results tell. And you will know. It's just not going to happen in the first year or the second year. Some people take time.
Yeah.
I think that's the case.
If I could jump in on that too, I mean, what you also have to do as an employee is recognize yourself as an employee, right? Some people, myself, right, based on what we've talked about during the show, right?
Yeah.
Some people, if you recognize about yourself, okay, I can't find a way to be at peace with accepting bad leadership. So I decided to go on my own, to Aldric's point, right? So you kind of have to know yourself as an employee and determine, okay, what avenue do I want to go? And then it's also more about, at that point, if you decide to go on your own, okay, do I have enough saved up to comfortably take enough time, the patience that Aldric talked about, to take enough time to build what I need to build to be self-sustaining. So it's not just like, hey, I want to be self-employed, I'm going to jump in, because that only works if you're single and 22 and you have very little responsibilities and you live at home with mom and dad and you got all the time in the world. outside of that, it really doesn't work. When you have a family and everything, you can't just drop everything. You have to be self-sustaining at that point. But
so to all the kids that's out there, or for all the undergraduates or the vocational students that's about to enter the workforce, there's one sense of reality that you have to understand is that when you are out and you start earning something, there's this thing called bills, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to build a little patience, you want to when you're about to explode and things like that, just take out your bills, look at them and say, okay, I can for a while, no problem, right? But then the point is this: if you have to always suppress yourself, right, then you really have to review whether this is the route for you, and it's never too late to review and to take action. I think that's important. Very, very important. If you have to suppress yourself every day, and every incremental day, the suppression is just getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and you're just absorbing it like a black hole, right? It's not a black hole. It's a spring that you're just compressing and compressing and compressing, and one day if you erupt, good for you if you erupt it in the right environment and the right person. Very bad for you if you erupt it on the wrong person and in the wrong context. And that happens. Family tension, huh? But the cause is never about family, isn't it? Somehow, someone at home, you're holding it for the whole day. You've just been holding it, right? The balloon is just growing and growing and growing. And somehow, when you're home, an innocent person asks you a seemingly innocuous question, totally innocent, but that question has become that pin, the balloon. And you explode at the wrong person. And then you're gonna end your day feeling super apologetic and, oh geez, what's going on? So don't. I think the important thing is really let's be a little more aware about things, that know if this suits you, but it takes time too. That's what I think.
Aldric,
Well, it looks.
that's never happened to you, has it?
Oh no. The fact that I can talk about it is not.
No, I know.
I'm not an academician.
Guilty as charged. I'm with you, so I understand.
That's why he became a solopreneur.
Well, that's a nice way to say that, but in like the other line of business where I have a stake and I'm a co-owner and things like that, I understand that when people are stressed, when people are stressed talking to you, it might not be you. You have to understand that. You have to understand that. Why? Because they might have a very difficult conversation in the morning before they leave the house, and when they come to work, they just need time to adjust, right? And if when they're talking to you, you sense the frustration and irritation, stay on. First thing, stay on. Let them go. First, but understand it's not about you. Stay on. Let them go. Let the thing come out, right? Because you want the best of them to face your customers. Don't let your customers and prospects take the hit. You take the hit. That's the way to think about it, right? it's all right. They are your people. What's wrong with them letting out their frustrations and irritations on you? It makes absolute sense to me. To me. Maybe not to many people, right?
No,
so to your point, Tim, I think this is a life experience thing. I don't think there's a course in this in any university or so, but if I might be wrong, maybe Susan is listening or so, I might be wrong, but if there is, introduce me, okay? I'll take it online whatsoever and see whether it works.
It looks like we have quite a bit of audience that's on here right now, and I just want to take the time to say hi to Brooke, Jasmine, thanks for hopping on, and Kenneth, you guys hopped on as well. Feel free, guys. Feel free to comment if you have any questions for us, or if you disagree with us, right? Any of us. We want this to be interactive. We want to hear from you. If you have any insights, feel free to share experiences. We've all been employees at some point. We've all experienced the frustration that Aldric mentioned below, and we all have different perspectives. Right. And that's the whole key of the show, is for us to not just to share, but also for our audience to share. And if we can help in any way, maybe you're in a frustrating situation right now, feel free to share, and you don't have to disclose who you work for or anything like that. But hey, maybe we can give you some pointers or ideas. Right? Yep. That's true.
Well, and I feel like I have to confess at this point too. So I have been an entrepreneur my entire life. I've never had a W-2 income in my adult life. And so I've actually never been in this pure employee space, but I just want to share a little bit of a perspective on that point. At this point, I'm in my mid-30s. I'm on my 4th company. I've sold companies. I've had partnerships. I've kind of done the whole gambit. And being your own employer is not all the glamour people think it is. For myself, I'm an executive coach. I'm a consultant. I do keynote speaking. I do all this. Some weeks I don't have a single hour when I'm coaching someone and I'm doing 100% business development. And then there's other weeks where I'm doing all admin and bookkeeping and all this kind of stuff. And there's actually been the past couple of months, I've actually started looking for traditional jobs just because I have a 1 and a 2-year-old. Like there's some stability, there's some consistency. There's a lot of things that come with employment that I think we can take advantage of because we've never seen the other side. And that's partially what my journey's been the past 4 weeks. I've interviewed, I think, 41 people about transitioning into a traditional workspace to see what am I actually giving up as an entrepreneur to move into an employee space, but then also what am I gaining? And in this, when we're even this conversation versus employee versus employer, I think oftentimes we can be short-sighted. I can be short-sighted and see what I want to see and not see the full picture from the other side. I had one person who said, I love you and everything you do, but I'd be scared to death to hire you. And this was a friend of mine. I'm like, please tell me. She's like, you're an entrepreneur. You do things. You make decisions. She's like, I'd scared of what you do. And I was like, well, thank you for the honesty, because there's some truth to that. And what Timothy said earlier too about having a bad leader, I'd be done, and I know it. And so as I'm talking about some big companies work for them, it's really this push and pull, and we fall into this trap of the grass is green on the other side. And I was an addiction therapist for 10 years and ran an addiction treatment center. And one of our favorite phrases was, yes, the grass is green on the other side. Did you ever think that you're the one making it brown?
And that's a very good one. That's a very good one.
But it's true. If we bring our own dysfunction, we bring our own mistakes. And so trying to see that other side and to gain that perspective that we don't have of, wow, what would it be like for me if I worked for an employee? I'd gain these things and I'd lose these. Okay, what's best for me in my scenario? Is it best for me to stay and for some of the stress it puts on my wife and for our family of the travel I have to do? And seeing this broader picture, it isn't always pretty, but it's also so helpful for us to understand, like, can I be a better employee? Would I be a better employee? What would I need? Do I need to take that first step of trust and say for 6 months, I'm going to do everything I can to be amazing to earn that trust that we're talking about? And I don't want to be the first one to take that step. And it's so easy to say, you should do that, rather than, no, I've got to do this. I got to take this stuff and I've got to learn.
Mm-hmm.
want
And
to
I think
address
this
what you
leads
just
into
mentioned, and I'm gonna
Brooke,
hop
one
on.
minute.
The
Yeah,
grass
go
is
ahead.
greener on the other side, right? That's what you said. Okay. I'll
What
tell you
was
my
that?
perspectives. The grass is greener on the other side. That's one of the things that you just mentioned, and I have a very how should I say? I don't have a very good response to people who tell me that, and I'll tell you why. Why are you spending your time observing that the grass is greener on the other side? Like why? Just tell me why, right? Is it something that's worthy of your time? And the fact that the grass is greener on the other side, what have you been doing on your own pasture? Do you water your own grass? Do you sow your own seeds? Because if you do, why would you bother? You don't have the time, right? If you're spending your time sitting around seeing and say that the grass is greener on this side of the fence, that side of the fence, in front, behind, something's very wrong. Water your own pasture, my friends. Do it. Do it as much as you can. And then we'll get into the motion. We talk about employees, entrepreneurs and things like that, right? Get into the motion of making your own skill sets, yourself, your business better. Instead of, the other business is in the same industry is doing better than me. Oh, my colleague is doing better than me. Oh, my boss just got a double promotion, I got nothing. Like, no, I think it's let's put the attention and focus back to ourselves, right? So when we say that the grass is greener on the other side, hey, take a step back. Look at your own pasture first. I think that's important. If you own a farm, you better ensure that your own pasture is very green because your cattle are gonna die, and they're just gonna move away to somebody else's pasture. And why we wanna do that? I don't understand that, right? Yeah. So that's my point. That's my point. It's important to focus on ourselves, whether we are employers, or entrepreneurs, right? And I can see Brooks having a very interesting question.
Yep, I want to answer Brooks' questions there. When do you guys think is the time to make the choice of knowing it's time to move on? So, so from my personal experience myself, I just want to answer this one. I think it comes to a time when it becomes unhealthy. Mm-hmm. So we go through seasons, right? You can have patience, which I agree 100% with Aldric. You've got to put the effort to wait it out, and you got to exactly what Chris said, right? You have to look at your personal situation. Do you have a 2-year-old at home? Do you have a family? What does it look like if I leave today? Because just like Aldric said, the grass might not be greener on the other side. So you have to really evaluate that situation. But if you have an unhealthy culture and an unhealthy leadership, leave. If you wake up every morning and it's affecting your mental health and you're not happy and you got to get in that car, drive to work, you have the choice to leave. There's thousands of jobs out there. There's millions of opportunities, that you can create for yourself. You're not tied to anyone. And the truth is, if it's unhealthy, then I always tell people, and I have younger people that come up to me because I'm an entrepreneur today, and they'll ask me, hey, Kevin, what should I do in this situation? And I go, hey, if you're really unhappy and you share with me, hey, there's sexual harassment or unhealthy issues going on, leave. Why are you there? No one's holding a gun to your head. So I think that's for you to answer yourself. Are you happy? If it affects your happiness, your mental health, your family, then you know what your priorities are. And I'll let Tim answer as well.
Yeah, so I mean that's beautiful. I think between Aldric and
Jeremey.
What's that?
Okay.
Oh, perfect.
I see him.
So between Aldric and Kevin, I think if you take both of those perspectives, the last two statements that were made, and you kind of tie those together. What's up, Jeremy?
Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt. Go ahead.
But anyway, if you take Aldric and Kevin's perspective and you kind of tie those two together and you really think about it, right? First thing is, okay, are you doing everything in your power to make your job situation good, right? And sometimes you have to take a step back and say, am I just complaining for no good reason? Because sometimes we do that. I've had to do that with myself. Sometimes I've had to say, okay, am I making this more uncomfortable than it needs to be? Maybe I am. So maybe I need to take a step back. Now, if you've answered that question, right? If you're doing everything in your power to make the job good, if you're giving 110% effort and you're trying to do everything to be a good soldier, let's say, and it's still not working because of Kevin's point, there's bad leadership, then I think for me, that's always been the time when I'm like, all right, I'm giving my all. I don't feel like it's being returned. As we talked about in the beginning, the trust and everything isn't there. So that being said, I'm not comfortable in this environment. I don't like it. Like you said, Kevin, it's not good for my mental health because it's just upsetting me and I wake up every morning dreading going to work. Then perfect, get out of there. Get the heck out of there. It's done. You know what I mean? If you're doing everything you can to make the job environment a good place and it's not, you can't force it. You know, there's things that are out of all of our control. You can't, if you have a bad boss, you can't change that. Now, they can get fired, but again, you still can't change that. So, you know, it is what it is. But like I said, for me personally, to answer your question, Brooke, if you're doing everything on your side and you feel like you're giving 110% effort and it's not being returned and you just hate the place you work, then it's time to go. That's it.
Since Aldric jumped off, I got to play devil's advocate for a second. I was talking with a head of a recruiting firm last week based in Denver that recruits explicitly for CFOs. And we were talking about this idea of the past 10 or 12 years of economic growth we've had in the United States. Unprecedented. For myself, I have not seen any recession in my adult career. And I think a lot of people are falling into that, from millennials to some early Gen Xers. And I think it's created this false sense of entitlement that I can quit my job at any time, find another job, get a 20% pay bump, and keep going. And I think we've lost this appreciation. And I think this COVID pandemic has helped. But we've lost this appreciation that we have work. And I think a reality of it is, we talk about bad boss. I agree. Part of my job is to help bad bosses, is help them become good bosses through teaching them the relational leadership, as I like to call it. And in that, we're always going to come across a bad boss at some point in our career. We're always going to come across a difficult team, or for us entrepreneurs, a terrible client that looks good up front. And then we end up 6 months in a year-long project, realize, oh, this is terrible. And I think in that, this is where a lot of character and integrity comes out, where it says, okay, I said I was going to do this. I said I'm going to give my best. I'm going to do it. And if people appreciate it, wonderful. If they don't, and this may be a bit of my old school therapist coming out, but I often think of employee-employer relationships as just a relationship, the same as a spouse, the same as a friend. And there's times where relationships are lopsided and you hold the other person up. And I think in the workplace, people are typically less likely to give an employer a benefit and doubt and say, okay, maybe he's going through a really rough divorce right now. And it's been going on. And okay, can I show him some grace? Can I pick up some slack? Can I say, hey, let me help you out? Rather than, I think that our first response in this overly selfish focused culture is, well, but what about me? But what about me? And even as Aldric and Kevin, you mentioned too about the great content, is the idea, give it away, help people out, give before we ever receive. And I think that can trump poor leadership, because then what happens is, above that leader or a leader to the side of it, they see that and say, wow, Timothy stepped it up. Wow, things were going bad and he didn't bail, he didn't check out. And it may take time, right? It may take 3 months, 6 months, even a year of going through this. But it's the same as problems in a marriage, and the same in the problems with friendships. And I think we've lived in almost this IKEA disposable generation, where after 2 years, when things get hard or start to fall apart, throw it out and get a new one. But a lot of conversations I have with people is, in any relationship, give it 2 years. If you haven't hit a bad spot, it's not a good relationship. You ever had those times where you get in a good big fight with your wife or with a good friend and you duke it out, and afterward you feel closer? You feel like the relationship has actually blossomed.
Yep.
I think oftentimes we leave before we allow those conflicts in the business to grow our relationship with a bad boss, to ask them, just like, hey, and even to coach up and say, hey, this is what I need from you. I would love to show up better. Can you do X, Y, or Z for me?
Yeah, another question from Jasmine is a good one. As an entrepreneur, do you struggle to find a true mentor? Do you have one or many? How do you find them?
Great question. Great
Yeah.
question.
Sorry, before the question, I just want to hop in here and say hi. Hi, Chris. Hi to the team. Sorry I'm a bit late.
So glad.
As I mentioned, yeah, doing employee duties. But I do have a point to make. I was listening a little bit to what you guys were saying. I guess this was addressing the question when it's time to leave, right?
Mm-hmm.
So first thing first, do not leave without another job in the pocket.
I have a different opinion to that, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, number one point. It's too stressful. I mean, in this pandemic, it's going to be even worse, right? So do not do that. Get one in the pocket first. Even if you have one in the pocket, it's still a little bit scary. So that's number one thing. I just want to share a quick personal story. Earlier part in my career life, I actually get to join an advertising agency, those global type of advertising agency as an account executive. It's my dream job because I sort of studied that, marketing communications. So advertising has always been what I wanted to do, but I only lasted 8 months in there. The main reason is because it was just too much of the workload. I was sort of losing it in the sense that the short story was that it came to a point whereby I was on top of this staircase within the office because there was like 2 floors. It's one of these old shop houses type of a setup. So I was on top of the on the higher floor. That's where the creative people are, and I was taking a creative artwork and was trying to go down the stairs to hand that work to the other guys who were processing it. But it came to a point where I was on top of the staircase and I looked down the staircase and I was like, well, guess what? If I rolled down the staircase, I could get a few days of rest. I was literally contemplating that, okay? Because it was just been a very, very tough period of time. At that time, it was 1999. It was at the end of the year. We got the account for all the banks in Singapore on the advertising to deal with the Millennium Bug. If anyone remembers that, Millennium Bug. So yeah, we had the job for all the banks, local banks in Singapore. So it was a very tough time, and that thought came to my mind. But ultimately, I left because I didn't roll down the stairs. Just for information, sane enough to pull back, and I ultimately left. But ultimately, I left because the last straw was that I was going in there and out, starting early and ending late. I didn't see the sun for many weeks. And I came to a point that I didn't know about a family issue. My mom and dad had a fight and they weren't talking. So that kind of hit me, right? What good it is if I have a dream job, but I don't even know what's happening at home. So I decided to leave. And the short ending to that was that after I left, they actually tried to hire 2 people to replace my headcount. So it's kind of a good thing because I realized I wouldn't say I was exploited, but that me leaving. Then I realized that I was doing like the work of 2 people, sort of. And but of course, the bad side of the story was that I left without a job and suffered for quite a while. Hence, what I said earlier. So that's the little part I wanted to share. So now on to the question on mentors. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So with,
before that,
yep, go ahead, Aldric.
I just want to mention a point on when do we start, right? I think that's a deeply individual kind of question. Because if you are the kind where security is your core belief, do it while you're still on a payroll. But it takes time in the sense that your day is going to be long and you have to be committed. That is the challenge. If security is your core belief, right? If you have a long day, if you have employee duties, a long day, and you want to do something on the side for yourself, you have to commit that additional 2 to 3 hours either before or after that, right? So that's very deeply individual. I think that's also one of the questions that Brooke asked. So I'm just going to address this. So you can do it while you're still on a payroll, it's not a problem. But for some people who are confident and really need a kick in the ass, I would say just forget about payroll, get out first and then figure it out on yourself. Why? You don't really get to push yourself until you are at the corner. You have to create that circumstance. So if you are the kind where you can't even motivate yourself to do things, then you have to force it. if that's what you really want to do. And when I mean doing your own thing, it doesn't mean that you're running your own show. For anyone that's on a commission-based kind of a job profession, you are doing your own thing. Or if you are some form of an external consultant having an additional assignment on your side, you are doing your own thing, right? But those kind of assignments don't come to you, don't they? You have to keep calling, you have to keep emailing, you have to keep asking, right? Those are the skill sets that, from a social perspective, you are harassing other people, but from a commercial perspective, you are asking for a deal. You have to put yourself in a position to ask for a deal. And if you are deeply embarrassed asking for it, if you're deeply embarrassed, like putting yourself out there, just talking to the other people, right? You then ask yourself this question: is it a worthy thing to try? Right? There's other things that you can do. So I think the important thing is understand yourself more, whether you are the kind where security is a main thing and things like that. I do have a lot of friends who wants to go off and do things on their own, but it's always a security thing that is holding them back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that journey is going to be very, very different for that group of people. You have to start doing something while you're still on a payroll. And then when you're confident enough of your revenue stream, when you're confident enough to understand what is prospecting, content, marketing, talking to people, negotiating, accepting rejections, okay, go on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So some people take more time. Some people don't. Kick in the ass, right? So it's a choice, but you have to understand yourself. I think that's the important thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I can part with one thing, just one thing, don't let fear control the kind of things that you do. You can't. Because the moment fear dominates your emotions and your mindset, you're not going to do anything. You're just going to suffer. You're just going to accept the current circumstance, and you're just going to suffer, right? So I think that's the thought process that I have, and I think everyone's going to have a very different journey, right? For those who is willing to pull the trigger and say, I'm leaving and I'm going to do my own thing, then I'm going to say, be very honest and evaluate what are the kind of high income skill sets or even low ticket income skill sets that you have in a way that can you sell. When you're alone and you have bills to pay, it's all cost. Can you sell? If you can't, pause, learn something, learn how to sell, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can't sell very well, ask yourself this: is it because I can't prospect very well? Is it because the contents that I put out, there's very little resonance? Is it because when I call people, I can't talk, I can't pitch? From there, move on, learn, right? You have to learn to put yourself out there, and that's very important, right? So there's always a journey, and it can be sequential, but it's dynamic. Dynamic because it fits to different individuals. That's what I really think. But I truly believe that if you own your own business, or you're a solopreneur, or you're a freelancer, your top skill set should be the ability to sell. Yeah. Really. If you can't sell, everything is just talk.
Out the window.
It's just talk.
No.
So that's my point. I think that's what I'm gonna say before we get into what Jasmine's question is, which is the mentor thing, right?
Yeah, I want to answer Jasmine's question directly because it's a wonderful question. I really love it.
It is brilliant.
It's really good.
I love it. So the first thing for me, what I'll tell you, Jasmine, is you have to trust your instincts. I think any of the entrepreneurs right here will agree with that a little bit, right? Is that, sometimes you can't look for a mentor. The answer has to come from you. You got to figure it out. As an entrepreneur, sometimes we're all you got. As a solopreneur, especially, we're all you got. That's it. So you got to be able to figure it out, right? That being said, when it comes to mentors, I like to take on mentors, and like Aldric is somebody that I listen to like crazy, because Aldric just has bomb-ass advice, just wonderful, wonderful, great advice. When this man speaks, I listen, right? And if I want to surround myself with mentors, it's a guy like Aldric that when he says something, I'm like, wow, that resonates. Those are the people, if you're going to surround yourself with mentors, you want to surround yourself with people that when they say something, you're like, it's profound. It's like, shit, that's good. That's the people you want to surround yourself with when it comes to mentors, because that's somebody that clearly, if you're a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, somebody can impress you, considering that you're doing a job. That's somebody you want to surround yourself with. So when you talk to somebody and they can very clearly say something, and you're like, wow, this person knows their stuff. This person is somebody I listen to. Don't be afraid to ask at that point, hey, would you mind if we had a relationship? Could you just give me some advice? Because I really like the things you have to say. You know, that's how you can garner mentors. I don't actively look for mentors personally. I'd love to hear the perspective of the other guys in this group, but I don't look for mentors. But I'll tell you that mentors kind of find their way to me just in general business interactions. And when I find somebody who I'm like, wow, this person is good, then I try to take the time to build a relationship with that person. And I don't take the time to build relationships with a lot of people. I build business relationships because obviously that's what it is. But on a personal level, I don't take the time to get to know a lot of people personally, because we all, entrepreneur or not, we all have limited amounts of time in our day. So from that standpoint, to answer your question, do I struggle to find a mentor? I don't actively look for them, right? Do I have many? I do. I have people who I can call and say, hey, can I talk to you about something? And I found them because just general conversation led me to say, wow, this person has great insight. Let me make the effort to keep them in my circle, even if it's not in my direct close circle, because my close circle is very small. But you know, my business circle is much larger, and it's still, you know, when I have associates, I have hundreds of associates, but my business circle is kind of small. And the business circle is the people that, like I said, like an Aldric, like a Kevin, like a Jeremy, like a Chris. These guys right here, you know, there's a reason we're all on this talk, right? We have a little bit of life experience. But that being said, when I hear somebody say something, I'm like, wow, that's really good. That's the person I'm like, all right, let me surround myself with that person. Let me keep them close to me. Because that's the kind of person, if shit hits the fan, I can say, hey, what did you do in this situation? And they're like, I did this, this, and this. Cool, thank you. So that's, to answer your question, that's how I see it.
I want to hop in.
Let me just go after you on
Yep.
this part, right?
Go ahead.
I think the question that Jasmine has posted, I'm sorry. Sorry, please carry on without me first.
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, I'll go. I want to hop in real quick. When you said, as an entrepreneur,
All right.
finding a mentor.
I think that the question that Jasmine has just posted
Here.
has to do with it's not the superficial question. The way to interpret it is, how do you find a true mentor? But the real question behind it is, the struggle behind that is listening. The struggle behind that is listening. You want to have a true mentor, someone where when he or she speaks and when that communication comes to you, you receive it 100%.
Yes.
When someone speaks and we are communicating their ideas to you, you accept it 100%. Now that is the litmus test that I think is very important, because when you're seeking mentorship and when you're looking for advice, the last thing you want is when he or she speaks to you every time, you have artificial barriers in your communication lines. So if Kevin tells me something, right, from his mouth to my ears, I have put in place 3 artificial barriers which filters off his message. I would say he's not suited to be your mentor, even though he's a great guy, he's successful in what he does, right? So the real question behind that is, who can you listen to? 100%. 100%. That guy will be your mentor, that girl will be your mentor, right? Because it's very difficult for us not to filter. That's human nature, right? We can doubt what people say. We can be deeply suspicious that whatever he's saying, he's trying to sell me something and things like that, or he's trying to put put me in a different direction, right? So that whole thing, right? Is it difficult to find a true mentor? No, that's a superficial question. The deep question beneath it, is it difficult to listen? Answer is yes. So if you can listen to someone 100%, make a mental note. There's always a reason why we are willing to listen and absorb what he says 100%, he or she. There's always a reason. Then from there, ask yourself, is he the right mentor for you? It could be a business mentor, it could be an academic mentor. But when I think about mentors, that guy must have been there, done that, vis-a-vis what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I know Tim and Kevin does car salesmanship and things like that in your previous life or in your current life, right? It's very likely that the kind of mentors that you gravitate towards are either people who have done sales or car sales and wildly successful. You will listen. You will. But if someone who's not in this arena, who is not having this skill set, trying to give you the advice, just imagine this. How many artificial barriers are you going to put up while he's communicating to you? Many, many. Because why? You're going to have a series of doubts. Don't waste that effort. So my direct question to Jasmine is, if you have this question in terms of finding a true mentor, think about how difficult it is to really listen to everybody's feedback 100%. Those people that you can listen 100%, they have a shot at being your genuine mentor. And then the reverse question is going to happen, right? Do they want to mentor you? Don't be naive. Don't be naive. I want my mentors to be busy, personally. I don't want my mentors to be available to me. I don't want my mentors to always have time idling and then waiting for me to call. I don't want that. You know, I want to know that the mentor that I have is busy, no time for me because he's doing something that I want to do. So then I will try very hard to get his airtime. I'll try to read their ebooks. I'll try very hard to see if they have any videos online or YouTube. I want that kind of mentors because I want to be there, right? If your mentor is always available for you, okay, maybe just think about it. Does it make sense? Think about it. Does it make sense? It doesn't.
Well,
so that's my point. That's my point.
Well, I'll say this. Listen, I mean, I'll say this. If somebody is always available, but they're making money hand over fist, I'll take that. If somebody's making, freaking 50,000 a day, and they're always available, shit, I want that life. I want that guy to be
I get it.
But I think when it comes to mentorship, right, from my personal perspective, being an entrepreneur, and I've owned different businesses myself, I think one of the key things I look for today as an entrepreneur is integrity. Look out there. Go look on LinkedIn. How many guys truly has integrity? They can have all the skill sets, make all the money in the world. But at the end of the day, do they have integrity? How do they live their life? Are they a good father? If they're married, are they cheating on their spouse? Why are we not looking at those things? Because we're too focused in today's world on shallow. A good mentor is someone who truly can listen to you, who truly can care about your well-being. And that's what I found from experience is there's a lot of coaches you can pay for. Okay. But are they really going to get you through the hard times and the situation when you lose everything? Those mentors are gone. Later, oh, Kevin, you need to borrow money? And they're like sharing with me how they're balling out of control. They got this nice house. Oh, you need to borrow $2,000? Oh, I don't have it. Because they don't care. So when we talk about mentorship, it really depends. What are you looking for? And at the end of the day, some of the best mentors, or it might be your wife. It might be your parents. It might be the people that are closest to you. It might be a pastor. Who knows, right? But that's something for you to answer. But I know one thing. If I am going to look up to someone and follow them, I want to see how they live. besides just how successful they are, and I think that's so important in today's society. We got to be careful who we look up to, who we listen to, right? We live in a society that's full of noise. Everyone loves, giving advice or teaching people or mentoring, but there's very few, just like we brought it up in a few episodes. I think Aldric mentioned, there's few people that are really listening. Is that mentor listening? Are they there to hear you out? If they're not listening, I tell this to clients every day, right? Well, part of my job is just to listen. How can I solve your problem if I'm not listening? All I'm doing is talking. Hey, do this. Hey, do this. Run your LinkedIn like this. Oh, do this, do this. Kevin, you didn't hear my problem.
Mm-hmm. And
oftentimes, I know Tim knows this. Aldric knows this. We all do. Chris knows this. He's a consultant. You got to listen. Mm-hmm. And mentors have to have the ability to listen. And if you found a mentor that's not listening to you, the first few times you guys have conversation, get out of Dodge. They're not there for you. So I think that's really important. And that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback on that. And one of the questions I always like to ask people when I visit them, what are you looking to accomplish? That's it. What are you looking to accomplish? I don't say, hey, you need to do this, this, and that. What are you looking to accomplish? And that's going to shape my response to you. You know what I mean? So, it's kind of that simple. So when you're looking for a mentor, I agree with you 1,000,000%, Kevin. They should be asking you a couple simple questions. They don't need to ask you your life story. Just, what are you looking to accomplish? How can I help you accomplish your goals? That's it.
That's good.
A part of the reason I love this is because we have such different views. I'm kind of opposite of Aldric in the sense of my mentor is retired. I have a different than Tim. I have a steady one every other Wednesday at 1 to 3. I sit at my mentor's house on his porch, talking about life. And I was there today. And why him? I think a lot of reasons. I think that we are holistic beings. We need spiritual mentorship. We need emotional mentorship. We need intellectual mentorship. We need business mentorship. And if we don't have this mind, body, spirit, soul mix, I think that we become lopsided and we become unhealthy. And so in my mentor, I have a spiritual mentor. I have a business and an intellectual mentor. And I have an emotional mentor that I have 3 different ones. I have very distinct mentors that I meet with regularly. And I also have ones that I can just ping up and say, I'm thinking about one particular woman who's a retired university president. And we grab coffee about every month or 2. And have I asked her, can you please be my mentor? No. It's, hey, I have some ideas. I'd love your perspective on them. Can I buy you a cup of coffee? And we've probably done that a dozen times in the past 2 years. And it's been great to just develop these. And so I think there's kind of a spectrum on it there's different needs I have. And I won't go to the same person for all 3 or 4 typically, because I don't think any of us have it. I have some people who have amazing business and intellectual insight, but I'm not going to talk to them about some of my marital problems I'm having because they may not have it. And vice versa. Some of my therapist friends who I'm such good friends with, I'm not going to talk to them about business and entrepreneur. They just don't know it. And because that's just how it is. And I think that's partially our job. And in that, I've been in my professional life for 13 years now. I've probably had 9 official mentors, and I'd say about 2 or 3 of them were good. And the rest of them, I met with them for 6 or 9 months, maybe once or twice a month, got tons of information. And this is not a discredit to them. In some ways, I grew past them in the sense of I've learned as much as I can learn from you. That doesn't mean you're bad. It's I now see the way you see the world. I've learned your perspective. I've learned how to approach situations. Great. I want to go sit with someone else now who's completely different, who can challenge me in ways that I wouldn't challenge myself and in different capacities. And so I have official ones. I have unofficial ones. I have regular meetings. I have meetups. And just as much being part of this Bottoms Up group, I've loved it because so many people, different industries, different everything, but great content, great thoughts. And we don't even need to be in person. And I think that's the beauty of it. And I think that's what Timothy was saying too. Like, we get mentors everywhere. I think the greatest person who is a leader and who wants to grow is the one that can pick up a book, pick up a newspaper article, or watch a video and learn something from it. because they're just
That's really good.
open to learn from whatever source I can find.
I agree with you, Chris. This kind of a mentor thing isn't really like official. You don't go out and say, "Hey, would you be my mentor?" Sounds weird, right? But I just want to touch on something. I'm not an entrepreneur. I can't say I have mentors, but there are people I look up to, but mostly, it's just friends, like you say, Chris. You meet them once in a while. You catch up with them. Hey, how are things? And if you have something you want to ask about life or business, you bounce off them. I think that's kind of like the mentorship I'm used to. Not official or any kind, just helping out. If people ask you, you try to help them. I don't think you say, "Oh, no, I'm your mentor." It doesn't work that way. But I think to Aldric's point, we currently are talking about from our perspective how we find a true mentor. I think to Aldric's point, really is also on the mentor side. How is that mentor? You think that is your mentor? How is that person reacting to you? I think primarily, not that just the person has to listen to you, the person has to care about you, right? If the person doesn't care about you, then that person will not even meet you in the first place. Will never be your mentor, will not be able to impart you any life experience or share anything on their side that would help you grow. So they have to be personally invested with you as maybe just as a friend, want to see you be a better person, want to help you grow because he or she has been there, done that, and you have this very good relationship, strong relationship with the person. And then that person would want to help you in whatever way you can, try and answer you in whatever questions that you meet in your life. So that's kind of like my take on mentorship and finding a mentor. I don't say I have like a true mentor, but I did learn a lot from my previous boss, who I worked with while I was in China. Learned a hell of a lot from him or her, but it was never from like, hey, are you going to be a mentor? No, because work-wise and personal friendship, life-wise, we sort of just clicked, and I still meet up with him regularly, but I don't look upon it as oh, I'm going to be my mentor. Not really. It was just really like catch up. So more of a friendship kind of a relationship, not exactly officially mentor, but that's my take and personal experience, just to share here.
Mm-hmm.
Jasmine just asked us if we can all be her mentors.
That's funny.
Absolutely.
Well, I think just via this program, all the questions that we are answering through via our perspectives and our life experiences, this is a form of mentorship. This is a way of making ourselves available on demand, right? As we put on more and more contents on the various platforms, right? We are sharing, and it can be curated to the relevance of the questions and the issues that you are facing today. I think that's important, right? Now, the thing is this, when it comes to seeking the right mentors and things like that, also understand one thing, that the more successful your prospect mentor is, it's very likely that time is always on his consideration. That time will always be on his consideration because it takes a lot of effort and work just to get up there. And chances are they are intrinsically motivated to do all these things. They're not going to be your usual 9 to 6, 8 to 5 kind of people, right? They work, right? So when you're seeking mentors, also try to think about it. What makes you worthy of his or her time? It doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to. You don't have to pay, right? But is there a way in which there is something about you that allows him or her to just get out of work and talk to you? It's a symbiotic relationship, right? Got to make that happen. Of course, if you just ask, there's always a chance that you're going to get it, you're not going to get it. But make it a worthwhile attempt for your mentor as well. Then I think this relationship is going to be a sticky one and a long one and a mutually beneficial one. I like to think that this is how I think about mentorship, right? To my mentees and to my coaches versus me with my mentor, right? That's how I think about things. Don't just ask or text or email and things like that. We all have things that we have to attend to. Make it worthwhile. If I agree to meet you for dinner for an hour over mentorship. Don't tell me about your life. Don't tell me about family. Don't tell me about what, because I treasure that 1 hour in terms of my time. I treasure that 1 hour that I have with you over dinner. I want it to be worthwhile. If you start distracting yourself, I will rethink this relationship. I will. It's like you just want to meet me in person. No, think about it. Just reverse engineer everything, right? Executive coach is the same thing. At the end of the day, like, you just want to pay me this amount for a lunch just to talk about the family. Yeah, there's the money part, but at the same time, it's kind of weird. The vibes aren't too right. Would I want to continue? Right? There's always a choice. The thing is, when you seek mentors, make it easy and seamless for them to see that you are worth their time. That's all I'm saying. I think that's important.
Yeah. I'll say this very simply and easily, right? The thing I care about most, if anybody asks for my help, is, are you willing to listen and apply? It's really that simple, right? Because
That's a good point.
Because if you're willing to listen and apply, I have no problem giving you any bit of knowledge I have. If you're not willing to listen and apply, then why are you wasting my time? So to Aldric's point now, especially in my business, right? When you talk about time is money, when you're a consultant, literally time is money, right? So if I'm spending my time with you, I'm costing myself money. So, like Aldric said, just make sure, if I'm going to take the time to speak to you, that you're going to listen and apply. And if you're not, then please, like, you're wasting both of our time. Don't ask me for help if you're not going to take the advice and run with it. So that's just my 2 cents. I can put it as simply as that. That's how I feel about mentorship.
I think that's a great point, Timothy, and I'll share my coaching perspective on this. The engagement of my clients is the difference with everything. I have some who like the idea of coaching and growth, but don't like the reality of it. That my job as a coach, I don't have all the answers. I know a lot of really hard questions to ask you to help you get to those answers yourself. Because if I've done it for 30 years, that doesn't mean what I've done is applicable to you. And so it's really trying to get that. And coaching engagements for me are about 95% successful, and there's some growth, there's some development for people who are engaged. For people who are disengaged, it's like 20%, because it doesn't matter. They're going through their motions. They're doing what they think will appease their boss or what they think is the right thing to do, rather than, hey, I'm meeting with a mentor or a coach and I want to learn from them. And I may not agree with everything, but I want to learn. I want to try it. I want to apply. I want to practice. But I think oftentimes there's even this middle ground where people love the idea of it, but then the actual execution, they realize, oh, this is hard work. Mm-hmm. Oh, I got to ask some questions I don't want to ask, and I have to do some tasks I don't want to do. Oh, and I think that's what really separates some of those people who are like, I value your time and your worth and what you say, and I value it enough to trust you to try it. There's a level of trust that actually comes in relying on a mentor in that level.
I sort of agree with what you say, Chris. It's kind of like drawing an analogy here, right? You see an advertisement on a gym membership. You see that guy with the abs, 6-pack, and muscles and all that. You say, hey, I want to buy that membership, thinking that you don't have to do anything, and you get a 6-pack immediately once you buy the membership. So it's kind of like what you said, right? You have to put in the hard work. It's no shortcut.
And then there's the next part of it too, is once you actually get there, you have to maintain it. If you find this level of health, you can't stop going to the gym. As someone said today, you got to keep tending the garden. That now that the garden is beautiful. And I'm like, so many times we get there and we just do everything that actually helped us get there. Oh, I've achieved it. I can stop. And we're like, it all goes away then.
Yeah, exactly.
So Brooke had a question here. She said, have any of you ever been in the position where you had to turn someone away because of the lack of presence of whom is asking for your time or pay?
I'm going to say it real fast. I gave a short answer. I'm going to give a long, short answer, right? It's this simple, right? you can offer me $2,000 right now, and it might be hard to turn away. But at the end of the day, if you're gonna give me $2,000, but then all of a sudden, when I offer you advice, you don't take it, and you're gonna say, "Oh, I gave that guy money, and it didn't work," and you're gonna destroy my reputation, when you're the one who didn't want to listen in the first place, it's not worth the investment. Because then what happens is I have to live with this guy bad-mouthing me for the end of days, but all along it was because he didn't want to listen. So he wants to pay somebody to fix his problem, but he doesn't want to just to Chris's point, right? I don't want to do the hard work. I just want to pay somebody and be done with it. Well, buddy, it's your business, not mine. So, so not for nothing, but I can give you all the advice. I can do some of the stuff for you, but after I leave, you still have to maintain it and take the advice and take heed to it. So yes, have I turned money away and have I turned somebody away? Yeah, like it goes back to, it's as simple as listen and apply. If you're not going to listen and apply, then we're wasting each other's time. You're really wasting my time, but we're wasting each other's time on this one. So let's shake hands, part ways is fine. Find a different solution that you can go bad mouth after the fact.
I'll just answer Brooke's question as well after Timothy. I think that's a very brilliant question, right? If you are in a sales mindset or a businessman mindset, for the rest of the world, they'll be thinking like they're always looking for a deal and things like that. But in truth, there are deals that we turn away. You can prospect all you want. You can do your lead gen. You can come all the way to Zoom or Skype call and you're negotiating and you're putting out your offer, and then somehow, somewhat, sometime in that conversation, you feel that in your gut something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You can always retract the offer. It's not a problem, right? It's like if the why of them talking to you is not clear, something's very wrong. You have to trust your gut on this. You really have to, right? There are many types of customers. You don't want the customers that suck all your life energy out of you just for that little sum of nickel and dime, right? You don't want to. It's like, ask yourself this. We've all been through this. Are you willing to invest 1 hour of your time with Mr. and Aunt Agony? It's human behavior. It's human behavior. If in that negotiation and you're about to close, you realize that 90% of the time they are lamenting, they're complaining. Think that would be your life during the tenure of that contract. Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
The person
It's a
doesn't need a
choice.
mentor, needs a therapist.
I mean, it can be a mentor, it can be a business partner, it could be people that you service, right? But you can think. Trust your gut. At the point at where we are today in our life experience, we have many years of experience. We can read. We should be, and if you don't, I think you need to find a way to get more exposure to people around you and try to like read people. And
Yep.
There's another group where I'll turn away because I'm not confident of handling this group of people, and it's absolutely fine. So this is just what I think. There are people who are your fans. Let's say they are fans of your work and your contents and things like that, right? And when you talk to them, yes, okay, that's good. Let's go ahead. And then there are those where, for some reason, they're gonna say no. So a hell yes, a hell no, right? What you don't want is someone in between, which is wishy-washy between yes and no. So the overlap between a hell yes and a hell no is a real hell. No yes, no is hell. It's like, I'm okay with you only if this, and I'm no is only with that. So with people that always equivocates, as my client, as the people that I'm gonna serve, I'm gonna think like, whoa, and then start thinking about your life in the next few months. Like, is it gonna be a miserable one, or is it gonna be a value-adding one, right? Use that as a benchmark. That's how I think about things. So in that context, have I turned away deals or offers or contracts that I'm very close to closing? Answer is yes. Even mentorships, it's the same thing, right? If that prospect mentee or coachee is those that has a lot of laments and things like that, right? Then you know for the message to get to them, you have to put in a lot of effort, because a lot of messages are just going to be filtered away by the way they think about things, which is negative. So imagine this. Instead of putting in your 100% to deliver a message, you got to put in 500% to deliver that same message.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Not worth it.
Biosymmetric relationship. That's how I think about it. That's how I think about it. And we have to make our own lives worthwhile and our business worthwhile, right? So it's not always a yes. Sometimes let's judge the situation and let's be honest. And sometimes we can put it on the table as well, right? Like, so Mr. and Miss Prospect, like, are you really serious about doing this? No, sometimes just ask a very simple question and you can tell them what you think. And you don't necessarily have to get them to accept your offer. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't. So what if they accepted your offer and then they're just going to suck your life energy out of you and all they do is to go on social media and say things that are at best neutral about you? Think about the cost. Think about the cost. Yeah. And cost doesn't have to be measured in dollars and cents, by the way. Mm-hmm. It can be measured in time.
Yeah.
Imagine the people that shit on your post and you have to comment on them and then try to win them back. Just think about that effort. It's the same thing. That's how I think about it.
Yeah. Well,
that's my response.
I'll say this real fast, because I know we've talked a lot, right? The type of person for me, if they take no accountability for everything, if every time you talk to them, it's somebody else's fault about something, that's the person I don't like doing business with, right? If it's like, oh, I tried this vendor and they're shit, and oh, I tried this and it's shit, and oh, I did this and it sucks. And it's like, well, okay, well, have you ever thought like maybe you're not making it work within your own four walls? Have you ever tried that idea that maybe, the thing you're saying sucks works for 500,000 other people, but it sucks for you? Have you ever thought, what did I do wrong with it? So those are the type of people that I'm like, nah, I'm good. Thank you. Have a good one.
It's true, right? It's true. And in the context of Kevin's business, just because your Facebook ad sucks doesn't mean Facebook sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I just want to make this very clear. Your ad sucks doesn't mean that the platform sucks, right? And you have to do the reflection instead of just pointing the finger and say, oh, Facebook doesn't work. No.
Yep.
Like, no. That's what I think.
Yep.
Yep. So I'm
thinking if you meant, go ahead, Ken.
Go ahead, Chris. No, go ahead.
I'm thinking of what I referenced earlier is this idea of our spiritual health, our emotional health, our intellectual health, and our physical health. And when one gets off, we just off. It affects the other. Like, we're holistic beings. I mean, it's that same thing. If you have a really greasy, bad meal for lunch and you try to go into a good presentation, you're just not going to do well. And it's this exact same thing here. Is if we have this very emotionally needy client, I can't come with my level of creativity, of intellectual stimulation and thought, because I'm emotionally drained by them. And I've had this where I've had a client like this, and it's like I'm on a needy emotional hangover for my next 3 or 4 hours that are actually now affecting my other clients because it kind of sucked the life out of me. And so this is kind of how I have to measure some of these things, where I could work more hours and make more money. We all could. But the idea is that the quality of life I want? If someone wanted to have a $100,000 contract for the year, but it would put me through the ringer, should I do it? For my family and my own health, probably not. And I think a lot of that has to come back to knowing our values, knowing what's important to us, and knowing how to keep that balance in kilter. Because time is money. Yes, money is important, but also I want to be able to put my kids to bed every night. I don't want to be traveling. My wife and I have an agreement. I'm allowed to travel 6 days a month because it messes up our family dynamics too much. And so there's things that we have to keep in account. And I think everybody has to ask themselves, what are those things for me? To make this money, what do I have to sacrifice? And is that sacrifice worth it?
I think at the end of the day, I think it sums it up, right? Even when we talk about employees and employers, it comes down to your time is the most valuable commodity. And that's what I'm getting from all of you. Our time is so valuable. It doesn't matter if you're an employer or employee, a consultant, right? Our time is valuable, and where you want to spend it. What are things that matter in your life, and where do you want to invest that time? Because guess what? At the end of the day, we will all leave here. We'll all die. You can't buy back time. It doesn't matter what status you are, how much money you have. You cannot buy back time. All right. They haven't figured that out yet. All right. So, so the key is no matter if you're leaving a job, when you're investing in hiring an employee, vice versa, it comes down to time. Okay. Is that person going to waste your time? Is that client going to waste your time? And it's all based on time. You know, our whole professional career is based on time. So, and where you value that time. So I think we have to get what matters to us most, you know, and when you're looking for a job, it's the same thing. Do I want to invest my time in this job? Is it going to make me happy? Is the payback enough just because they'll support my family? You got to ask yourself all these questions. And I think employee versus employer, I think on both ends, you know, I'm an employer now, and it comes back to, is this person wasting my time as an employer, or is he worth my time and investing in good leadership? So I think, you know, I think we've been here for how long today? 2 hours and 30 minutes?
hour 39, it says.
An hour and 39. So we've been there for a while. So I think we had a great conversation. And next week, the episode's about money. So I think I want to talk about money tops, right? So I want to talk about money. And I think Aldric's going to really enjoy this one.
I'm gonna talk about the lack of it, right?
We're gonna talk about a whole range of topics. I've been on both sides, so I can talk intelligently about both.
Yep.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Chris. Appreciate your time tonight as well for being our guest.
Thank you for joining us, man. Appreciate you.
Great insight. Thank you all.
Great meeting you. Thanks for everybody.
Have a good morning. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you guys later.
All right. Have a good
See you
night.
guys next week. Bye.
See you.
Bye.